Okay, so when we started these NBA playoff talk here, Josh, I'm going to say something. I thought of you on Tuesday night. And
Really?
the reason I thought of you is we had two, what I call marvelous NBA playoff games between the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers, game five, when Tyree Maxey made that incredible, basically 7-1 run, those 7 points, send that game into overtime when it looked like the Sixers season was over. Followed that up by Evan Mobley saving JB Bickerstaff's job in Cleveland, pretty much, with an incredible block that put the Cavs up 3-2 on Orlando. And the reason why I said I thought of you is because I sat back Tuesday night watching those two NBA playoff games, and I know how obsessed I like slash love sports. You live and die for sports. And the reason why I thought of you is because I sat back Tuesday night after watching those two playoff games, and I thought, this time in 2020, there was no sports on. How did my partner at Championship Rings survive 2020? That was my, honestly, laying in bed off the adrenaline of not only those two games, but the Guardians game and the Astros game going to extra innings. The Guardians obviously lost that one, came back and won last night. After that adrenaline high of what was that sports night our own town hasn't had in like 6 years since the 2018 NBA Finals. I'm like, how did this man, how is he still living after what 2020 gave us?
I I don't know. Um, but I'll tell you what. I didn't get to see all of the 76ers Knicks game because I was working down at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for Game 5 between the Magic and the Cavaliers. I was able to catch the tail end of it because my shift for the Cavs ends at halftime, start of the third quarter ish. That was absolutely amazing. And I said this earlier in a video I posted on YouTube. Uh, this series between the Knicks and 76ers has been fantastic. We've had close games, we've had controversies, we've had conversations about the fans, for God's sakes. We've had amazing performances. The only two things missing from this series are a suspension and an ejection. I mean,
Well, and we've had Joel Embiid falling and looking like Andre the Giant, and we've had Joel Embiid, playing dirty on some nights. So I'm gonna throw this at you because I said this today on Brain's World. It will be such a Sixers slash the city of Philadelphia thing to get absolutely murdered tonight. Because knowing the city of Philadelphia like I do in their sports, think about it. The Phillies, they get to the World Series, they lose. The next year, they obviously lose to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the NLCS after having a 3-2 week. The Philadelphia Eagles go to the Super Bowl, blow a lead to the Chiefs. The next year, they start out 10-1. They collapse like all hell and get beat to hell by Tampa in the wild card round. The Philadelphia 76ers, they have a great player in Joel Embiid who's never healthy, seems to always be hurt, and now they're down 3-2 in a series of the Knicks where they stole game five and now will probably lose game six because that's the way the city of Philadelphia sports have gone lately.
yes. And what's crazy is the Sixers are and the city of Philadelphia is doing everything they can to make sure this is a 76ers home game, and it doesn't sound like they're playing in Madison Square Garden. Because I'll tell you what, I watched Game 4. That was crazy. I'm
That
like,
was basically a Knicks home game, which you would never expect out of a Philadelphia crowd. Though I will say it is a short, it's an hour train ride, basically from New York to Philadelphia. If you take Amtrak, which I cover over at my day job for Mass Transit Magazine,
yes,
but
I get that, but still, like Philadelphia, as you know, Philadelphia is one of the most passionate sports towns in this country. Like, if you don't live up to the hype or you don't meet Philadelphia's expectations, the city and the fans will let you know about it. Ask Ben Simmons about it.
that's
You can,
Carson Wentz.
uh, uh, yeah, Carson Wentz. Um,
Both of those guys Obviously, one was drafted number one overall, one was drafted number two. Both were viewed as the savior of the city, and both crumbled under the pressure.
Exactly. Allen Iverson, he met the pressure. Did
Somewhat got into a finals, though never got him over the hump.
right, but still got him to a finals. That's
Yeah,
pretty
but for Philadelphia, I'm telling you, that's not good enough. It's why they don't view Donovan McNabb in the same way.
fair enough. But I I'm hoping this goes to a game seven. It feels like a series that should go to a game seven.
So I want to throw something at you because I've been thinking about this, and you may say, no, 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 you're crazy, Josh. If the Sixers don't win this series, I think you have to have a grown up conversation, and I think you have to consider starting over and moving Embiid.
That's an interesting idea.
I think you have to have a grown up conversation and say, hey, listen, he may be, and I'm not saying he's the best player in the league. Obviously, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Victor Wembanyama, Luka, we know all the stars. What I'm saying is, I think he might be the most valuable player just in terms of their record when he's on and off the court. The problem is he's never available. Not only that, but when he is available, he goes down one tumble, and like I said, he looks like Andre the Giant. And not only that, but there was a weird moment in game four. I don't know if you remember when he pump fakes and he has a wide open jumper, and then he goes to the lane and instead of dunking the ball, does a Ben Simmons esque layup that he misses. Awfully not clutch. The process has clearly not worked, and you have to have a grown up conversation here and say, we're not better than Boston. We're not better than the Knicks. Milwaukee is not going to be this hurt again, and we're probably not better than Milwaukee. Where are we
You're not
going?
better than Indiana.
Well, I think that they are technically better than Indiana. I think if Embiid was healthy all year, but again, that's the problem. Where are you going? You're going nowhere. You are a second round cap, and that's it. And you're not going to get a third star. And I don't think Tyrese Maxey can be that number one, but I don't think you can trust MP to be your number one either.
So I'm not totally on board with your idea, but I'm not totally against it either. I'm somewhere in the middle with it. But here's the thing, we've seen that Philly seems to play better with Tyrese Maxey as the primary focus. I mean, look at what happened when Jalen Brunson got to New York. The Knicks have become, what they are now.
Yeah, but Philly has not won at the level they did when Embiid has not been there. I mean, they would be a 3 or 4 seed if Embiid was healthy for the whole year.
You're probably right there.
They were
But
32-8 with Embiid on the court this year. They were Spurs territory without him.
again, I'm not totally disagreeing with what you're saying. But maybe what you could do is instead of having Embiid be your primary guy, you can keep him on the roster, but slowly start to build around Tyrese Maxey
I
instead.
don't know if you can build around Maxi being your number one. I think you have to go out
Isn't that
and
what New York did with Jalen Brunson, though?
but Jalen Brunson has that dog in him. Jalen Brunson is that guy. I don't see it in Tyrese Maxey, or we would have seen it throughout this season.
This this playoff series against the Knicks hasn't shown you that he has that dog in him?
No, I think he made two clutch shots at the end, which I like, but not throughout the entire series. No, I don't think he's had a great series overall. I think he made two very good shots.
Interesting. I got some. I got a little bit of a bitch, or not bitch. Not
You got a little bit of a bitch.
that's not the right term. Complaint with this whole series. Why is the NBA still releasing these stupid 2-minute reports? It is
Don't get it. Don't care about it. I don't care. Referees mess up all the time. Play through it. I'm tired of players complaining about referees not making calls. I just am. I'm tired of it. You are grown men. And you know what? The NBA stopped making calls in mid March for this exact reason. There are fouls every single game. But you know what? The good teams, I know we'll get to this game last, but people in Cleveland are even bitching about the officiating side and Orlando getting all these other free throws. You want to know why Orlando gets all the free throws? You want to know why the Knicks are getting way more free throws? Because they're putting their head down, they're driving like football players, and they are tagging the rim, and they are forcing the officials to make a call. Where the teams like the Sixers and the Cavs are running away like scaredy cats because they get the call. In the postseason, you earn the calls.
So that's not where I was going with it. The NBA released the final 2 minute report, and they said Tyrese Maxey's late 3-pointer, in which he got fouled by Mitchell Robinson,
Was a travel,
exactly. And I'm like,
well, you can see it on the slow down video that it was, but I'm going to defend the referee. They are looking at the defender. I didn't notice it in real time either.
Exactly. No, that's my exact point, though, is by saying, oh, yeah, he traveled. You're not helping your cause, NBA. Now, instead of, us being all crazy about tonight's game, which I'm very excited about game 6 between the Knicks and 76ers. You clearly aren't quite as excited about it, which I understand.
I'm excited about it, but I don't know. I can't trust the Sixers. It's very hard for me to get into the game when I know the Sixers, I'm preparing for a meltdown.
But my point, though, is when you give out that 2-minute report and say, oh, yeah, there was this missed call, guess what? Now fans are going to start saying, oh, why didn't you call this? Why did you call that? And it's like,
it would be like if Major League Baseball went out and after every game publicized every single error that an umpire made in the strike or ball zone.
You know what else it would be like? It would be like if somebody misspoke in the final Jeopardy and they said, nope, you don't win. And then Jeopardy comes out the next day and says, actually, no, you should have been given that correct answer. It's that type of thing. You're opening a can of worms that you don't need to open.
By the way, the NFL does it, but they do it right. They do it privately. As I've explained on this show many times, NFL officials are graded weekly on calls they get right, calls they get wrong, but they do it in complete privacy. Nobody knows about it.
Right. Like, we'll talk about why did they make that call, and, they should have, why was this play reviewed and changed or whatever. But it's not like the NFL, as you said, publicly says, yeah, this call should have been made or that call should not have been made. That's more of what I was going for.
Okay, so I want to go to the next game on our list. That being that the Milwaukee Bucks, with just Chris Middleton, somehow survived and got this to a game 6 against Indiana. Now, I did not think it was possible. I actually thought Indiana was going to blow Milwaukee out. I thought Milwaukee was just going to be mentally defeated without Giannis, without Dame. But I'll say this. You said earlier that you thought Indiana was better than Philly. I can make the argument this series should be flipped because I thought Milwaukee should have won game 3 if they just rebounded the ball. I thought they outplayed Indiana in game 3 in Indiana. I have not been impressed by Indiana in this series, who have not been able to take advantage of the fact that Milwaukee's best 2 players are out. And Milwaukee has no chemistry either, and their defense is horrible. Yet, Indiana better win tonight. Because if you get to a game 7 in Milwaukee, it's no holds barred.
By the way, that game is underway. I'll give you a score update right now.
Okay, we got a live score update here. If Milwaukee gets off to a good start, Indiana's in trouble.
It's right now, it is 23-19 in favor of the Pacers.
Okay, so sounds like the Pacers are playing well in the first quarter. They have to win tonight.
Damian Lillard, by the way, is playing for the Bucks.
Wait, Lillard is playing. Okay, that's interesting. Giannis is not playing, though.
No.
Okay, so it does change the equation a little bit. Obviously, Milwaukee has a puncher's chance, but Indiana's got to win this series. If you can't win a series where Giannis either would play in a game 7 or doesn't play at all, you didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs, from my point of view.
I think even though they have Dame back tonight, I think Indiana closes this out. And if we get Indiana, New York in round two, I think that would be a fascinating series because
I disagree. I think the Knicks would gentlemen sweep them. I don't think Indiana's that talented. I think Indiana's offensively talented. They don't have the defense, and I think the Knicks would clamp them and suffocate them.
I, I have you Indiana. I think they've only gone two games where they didn't score 100 points. They will get out and run every opportunity. So
They will, but the playoffs are magnified when you can make adjustments, and the best coaches are in the playoffs, and New York would have the best player in that series.
okay, but then Indiana would have the next three best players in Siakam, Turner, and Halliburton.
Well, but Halliburton has not played at that All Star level ever since the All Star break. Even in this series, he's been okay. He's not been great. Siakam gave him a big lift in game two. He's been decent. Turner, I think, has been the most consistent out of all three of them.
If Indiana does get to the Eastern Conference Finals, which was my big hot take, and they play Boston, the Celtics better have Kristaps Porzingis for that series, or the Pacers could give them serious problems.
You know what's funny? Don't feel offended by this, but I feel like you are bandwagoning on the Pacers like I was on the Miami Heat last year. You are in love with the Pacers the way I was in love with the Heat. Let's see if that Pacer bandwagon can ride you all the way to the finals.
Hey, I did it with I picked the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl the year they did it. They ended up going to the Super Bowl against the Rams, and everybody thought I was crazy. And then what happened? The Bengals were in the Super Bowl, and I'm like, I called it. Thank you very much.
There you go. So this next series, I said it at the start. We both said this is going to be a very good series. I had said the winner of the series depends on the health of one number two for the Los Angeles Clippers. And the ironic thing is, the two games they won, as you pointed to me on the platform now known as X, formerly known as Twitter, that they have won their first two games in the series. They did win to tie it up at two without Kawhi Leonard on the floor. That was in part from a turn the clock back magical game four from James Harden and Paul George. But I think the Clippers gave everything they could in Dallas in that game. And I think the fact that Dallas came back from a 31-point deficit shows that Dallas was not afraid of the Clippers at any point in the world. And I think they proved it last night in game five. And I don't think the Clippers can bounce back and win it in six. But again, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I told you from the start. This is, other than Magic Cavaliers, because the Cavs are my hometown team and they're my number one team in all of sports. But this was the series I was most excited for, because the Clippers and Mavericks have played each other now 3 times since 2020, and the first two series went 6 games and 7 games. So I'm like, what's the third time going to bring us? And it's been a fascinating series. I mean, the fact that, like you said, the Clippers were able to win 2 games without Kawhi. Granted, the Mavericks came back from 31 points, and it basically took a Paul George miracle three-pointer to seal it for the Clippers, because Luka and Kyrie were on one that game. And then, what was that performance by the Clippers last night?
Well, that was a classic Clipper game because you can't trust James Harden in the playoffs or Paul George or Russell Westbrook, who, by the way, ever since game one has gone 4 for 38 in the series. But people think he's a Hall of Famer. I think the Basketball Hall of Fame needs to get their facts checked on that. I also think that James Harden, I don't know if you know this, James Harden has the most career games in NBA playoff history where he's taken 10 shots and made two or three or less, both of them.
I don't. We've heard so much about James Harden. He's a great player. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't view him as a great player. I don't think he's even close to a Hall of Famer. I think James Harden is a very good player, but not a great player.
No. In his prime for those years in Houston, I think he was the best offensive scorer maybe in the history of the game. Offensive score was the key. Not overall player, just offensive score, specifically in that Mike D'Antoni offense.
I mean, yeah, but then what happened in the series against San Antonio.
And that's what I always said. James Harden, he always disappears oddly. Remember last year in Philadelphia? Disappeared in game six and game seven. And then, as I proudly said on the first or second episode of Championship Rings, he decides to eat Oreos and get his way out of Philly.
Yes. For me, he's not a Hall of Famer. In my opinion, James Harden is not a great player. He's a very good player at best.
So I'm going to throw the same question to you about the Clippers that I threw to you about the Sixers. If you lose this series, if I'm a team like Cleveland or any other team that's close, like in Orlando, that needs a wing, I'm calling the Clippers. I'm asking for Kawhi Leonard. I think
Oh,
it's
I thought you were going to say Paul George.
that too, but I think the Clippers were more than likely trade Kawhi. It's time. You can't rely on him in the postseason. It is time.
See, that's part of the reason why if I'm a team like the Cavaliers or Orlando, I don't know if I want Kawhi.
But can I make the argument for those teams? You probably would have to give up draft picks and maybe some bench players, but I can literally load manage him for half the season. I'd play him at, you know, 20 home games and 15 away games. I maybe play him less than half the year. I would basically have him ready for a playoff run.
It's certainly an idea, but if the Clippers lose this series, which I think they're going to, this whole era has been, or run, whatever you want to call it, has been a complete and total failure. I mean, and what's Steve Ballmer supposed to do? You're building this, or you built this shiny new arena that you're moving into next season. You want everybody to be excited about it, but if you lose in the first round, what's there to be excited about? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. I want to move on to that guy, Jamal Bleeping Murray, who for 2 out of the 5 games of this series, and I will say this, and I don't say this lightly, the closest 5 game series I have ever watched in my 25 years on Earth. I really felt like the Lakers are as good as any team in the West outside of the Denver Nuggets. And I think they drew the wrong matchup, and Darvin Ham's going to get fired for it. And LeBron, who knows what's going to happen with him? And the Lakers are going to torture themselves, just like the Houston Rockets did over not being able to beat Golden State. Guess what? Same thing here. The Lakers cannot beat Denver, and they tried, and they led for 70% of the series.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you people watching could not tell me that the Lakers they're clearly not better than Denver, but you can't sit there and go, "Oh, Denver owned the Lakers. The Lakers had no chance." The Lakers could have very easily been up 3-1 in that series, at least going into Game 5.
You could say the same thing going back to the Western Conference Finals last year.
Again, I've never seen every single game went the exact same way for like the first 6 or 7 games, if you include the Western Conference Finals plus this year's first round. The Lakers would get out to a first quarter lead, second quarter, Denver would chip away, then the third quarter would come. And the Lakers would either get nothing from the combination of D'Angelo Russell, Rory Hachimura.
Okay, let me stop you right there. I want to talk about D'Angelo Russell for a minute. What was that dude doing at the end of the bench on his damn phone?
Well, if you want me to be funny, I could say he was placing an illegal bet because he's an NBA player on the Denver Nuggets to win the championship. But I don't know. He was booking his Cancun flight, as many people have said. I mean, the Lakers. And here's the other thing: they have to have a real conversation now because yes, you want LeBron back, but are you going to go through the same pain again of bringing back LeBron and AD? Like, if you're going to do that, which I think they will, and I think LeBron wants to stay in LA, to me, you get a backup big for AD, but then you just draft and go out and sign all free agent shooters. They don't have to be guards, they can be wings, whoever. Guys like, back in the day, like what LeBron had, like a Mike Miller, a Ray Allen, a
Mario
Kyle Korver, a
Chalmers.
J.R. Smith. Guys that can just, James Jones, guys that can just hit shots. LeBron is 39 years old. He may not be able to do it every single night anymore, but I could argue LeBron's best position is being the point guard next year of the Los Angeles Lakers and going downhill at the basket. And you surround him with AD and three other shooters like that are knockdown shooters because that's what they need. Austin Reeves is a nice player. I would not do what they are rumored to do and go get Trae Young because I think on the defensive end he would just get exposed. And I think you would have to give up Austin Reeves and other pieces. I wouldn't be willing to do it for that. I just think move on from Jared Vanderbilt. Move on from D'Angelo Russell. Gabe Vincent clearly didn't provide you jack squat. And yet you still should have beat Denver. But yet Jamal Murray is that guy. Nikola Jokic can have a bad game and still gets 22 rebounds, by the way. Let's put that into perspective.
It's so hilarious with Nikola Jokic. You look at him and he's like, the dude can't jump up on a crate, and yet you still cannot stop him.
And by the way, for the record, I'm just going to point this out. Michael Porter's family, half of them's getting arrested for DUIs, half of them's getting kicked out of the NBA, and this dude hasn't missed a shot in the damn series.
And don't forget about Aaron Gordon either.
What about Aaron Gordon? And KCP too. Every time you look up, you need a shot. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
By the way, it sets up a very interesting matchup between them and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before we get to the Minnesota side of it, can we talk about the Phoenix side real quickly?
Well, let me just say this with the Lakers. You're probably right that Darvin Ham is going to lose his job. I don't think he should. Too many times when a team doesn't meet expectations, we automatically place the blame on the coaches. And I could tie Frank Vogel into this conversation as well.
I thought Frank Vogel was a better coach than Darvin Ham. I don't think Darvin knows how to manage rotations. I think Vogel actually did a decent job. He was just the victim of a bad Lakers roster.
There's reports that Frank Vogel might get fired. I don't think he should get fired. I don't think Darvin Ham should get fired. You are right that like three of the guys the Lakers brought off the bench were guards. But part of that is also, as you said, the Lakers don't really have a backup big. I mean, Jackson Hayes is nice, but what's he
didn't do anything in this series? Zero.
That's exactly my point, though. But that's not Darvin Ham's fault.
Well, I think Darvin Ham's like J.B. Bickerstaff, except he doesn't scream.
I don't think Darvin Ham should lose his job with the Lakers, but unfortunately, I think he's going to.
So I think Phoenix was set up to fail because Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are the same player. I said it when they made the trade. Now, I had said that as much as Chris Paul was declining, I personally would have not gotten rid of Chris Paul because I don't think Devin Booker is that guy. I think we often confuse talented players with that guy mentality. Jamal Murray's never made an all-star team. I'll take him over half the damn league and more. I think Jamal Murray's a top 10, maybe even top 5 or 6 clutch player in the NBA, and that's what I want in the postseason. I don't want a guy that puts up, oh, look at Devin Booker tonight, guys. He put up 70 points. Yeah, and you lost. I don't give a damn. Devin Booker's very talented. He's a scorer. That's all he is. He's not a leader. Chris Paul was the leader of that Suns team. And Kevin Durant, by the way, is not a leader. And Kevin Durant has hurt his legacy ever since he decided to leave the dynasty and go to some cuckoo town called Brooklyn, New York, with 2 cuckoos that even the guy that quit, James Harden, he was smart enough to say, give me, excuse my language, because I think it's emphasis here for needing it, get me the fuck out of there. Because that place was a disaster. And Durant, if I'm him, I'm looking around at Phoenix going, this roster stinks. Get me the F out of here.
For me, Kevin Durant's legacy was tarnished the minute he decided to leave Oklahoma City and go to Golden State.
So clearly Golden State, I mean, they didn't need Durant. He was the ultimate enforcer. They needed him to beat the Cavs. They didn't need him to win another championship.
Exactly. So
Do you know Kevin Durant has played 8 total minutes past the first round, or excuse me, past the second round ever since that series in Brooklyn against Milwaukee after that game 7.
That's crazy.
That's it. 8
Yeah.
total minutes in the second round.
Um.
By the way, he hasn't made it back to a conference final since the Golden State one in 2019 when obviously he was hurting.
Yeah. Um, yeah, this is the first time since 2005 that the second round of the playoffs will not include Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, or LeBron James. And I'm all here for it because now that gives opportunities to guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I think should win MVP this season, not Nikola Jokic. That's no disrespect to Jokic. But if Shai was not with the Thunder, they wouldn't be anywhere near the number one seed in the Western Conference. So I get it. If Jokic wasn't with Denver, would they be as good as they are? No, but I still think they would be a decent team. So that's a major difference.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
that,
I kind of wish right now I never say this to my wife. I kind of wish right now I wagered more than I did on Denver winning the championship. Because I seriously don't think, and Minnesota's a good team. They will give Denver a series. I think Anthony Edwards has real potential to be a future NBA superstar. And you know me, I use that word very deep. To be a superstar, you got to be a real number one to me. I have no problem kicking guys out of that superstar category. Um,
I can, we all put John Morant in that category for
which
a while.
we all thought he was, and then John Morant decided to go play with guns. And John Morant is pretty much now non-existent because of the depth and talent that's in the NBA in today's game.
Yeah, for me, he's not going to get back to that level. I just wanted to mention that since you were talking about the term
By the way,
superstar.
people forget. Do you remember they were the 2 seed last year?
Yep, and lost to the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. But should we get to the game that's near and dear to our heart? That the and by the way, who said after game 1 when everybody was texting me, "Oh, Brandon, you're just a hater. The Cavs won. Be happy." I said, ladies and gentlemen, this series is going 7 games because the Cavs don't have a coach. And that is the difference. And by the way, did I not say before the playoffs? I remember telling you right on championship rings. JB Bickerstaff has officially topped Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens as the worst coach in the history of Cleveland sports.
Yep, you did say that.
Guy has no idea what he's doing. This game should have been over about 6 different times. And by the way, the more you let Orlando get into this series, the more comfortable they're getting. Orlando didn't play that well in game 5. And Donovan Mitchell, by the way, I am starting to really question if he is that guy because I don't think Donovan Mitchell has had a good series either. He had a horrible game 5 when he should have taken control and demanded and won that game essentially by himself. That's what a real superstar would do. But instead, Darius Garland had to save the team in the first quarter with 17 points. And yet the Cavs, they were up, what was it, 15? Damn near almost 20. And you look up and by halftime, it's a 1-point game. And we can't rebound to save our lives. And I don't care if Jared Allen's not in the game or not. Jonathan Isaac is dominating you on the board. Pavel Banchero is owning you on the board. Wendell Carter is destroying you on the boards.
Yeah, I think this series is going back to Cleveland for a game 7. I'm with you on this because we got absolutely destroyed down in Orlando in game 3 and game 4.
And then, by the way, the Cavs were up 9. How do you go? Well, let me ask you this question. I don't even think the Pistons could do this. You go from the start of the third quarter to halfway through the fourth quarter. That's 18 total minutes in NBA time. The Cavs scored a total of 12 points.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm not sure.
They first of all, there's a lot of problems with this team. Number one is I don't care if Garland had a good first quarter. To me, he disappeared until a little bit later in the fourth. They are still way too Donovan Mitchell dependent. if Donovan Mitchell does not have a good game, the team looks lost. There's no leadership out there. Evan Mobley, yes, he had a great block, but he really did not play well, especially in game three and game four. He's getting owned still down there, down. That should not happen.
Yeah, I have to admit it. Jamal Mosley is coaching
He's
circles.
running circles around JB.
I. It's like you knew what I was gonna say because I was gonna say the same damn thing. Um,
By the way, when you look at this series shouldn't even be close. The Cavs are clearly more talented. And if Max Strus didn't have a Steph Curry like quarter, the Cavs are going down 3-2 right now. Let's just put it the way it is.
yeah, you're not wrong. I,
There's no way. By the I told you after game two, everyone was so happy we killed the Magic in game two. I said we should have won by 30.
yeah,
How did that game get caught? That was my. Did I not come on here? We did the show the next day after game two, and I came on here and I specifically said you let the Magic back in the series by not closing the door. The Magic closed the Cavs' door in game three and game four. It was over by halftime.
it really was. Well, no, Orlando basically
Game
just took.
three it was. Game four by the end of the third quarter was over because Orlando put up 45 in the third quarter.
Yeah. Paolo Banchero has exploded in this series.
Who's been the best player of the series? Let me ask you. It's been Pablo Banchero. It should be Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, and you know who else has been a great player in this series? Franz Wagner.
Franz Wagner looks better than half our guys.
Yeah,
But Isaac Okoro made a couple threes, but then he bricked a couple again in game five, which he has to hit his open threes. Evan Mobley has to hit his threes. And Jared Allen, I'm going to say this. And Jared Allen, hopefully he plays in game six, but I'm sorry. If he had that bad of a rib injury, I hope it's broken ribs. Because if it's just sore ribs or not taped up, then I'm sorry. I don't want you on my basketball team. This is a do or die game five, basically your season, because we know the winner of game five wins over 80% of the time in a 2-2 split in the series. You had to win that game.
yeah. It was interesting that Marcus Morris came off the bench and played like what?
Yeah. And by the way, Marcus Morris pretty much saved the game because, again, George Niang, who JB's got some sort of love fest with, decided to sit him because JB knows his job's on the line. And Tristan Thompson finally got some minutes. Thank God. He should have gotten some minutes in game one and give Allen and Mobley some more rest, in my opinion. I still don't get why Sam Merrill's out there. Sam Merrill was a good regular season player, but he just looks lost out there in the postseason.
And the Magic are completely exposing him. I have to disagree with you about George Niang. I really like him. I think he's been a very good.
He hasn't done nothing in the series. He literally did nothing in the series at all.
Okay, you have me there. I'll give you that. But I liked what he did in the regular season.
And Karis LeVert, I've always said he drives me nuts. He doesn't pass. Watch him. Here's a guy who cares. Oh, give me the ball back. I'm moving my desk here because I'm getting so freaking pumped. Give me the ball back, bro, so I can shoot it and I brick it 75% of the time.
Isaac Okoro is the one that frustrates me the most, though.
The whole team frustrates me. I tell you? I know I texted many people this, including friend of the show, Jalen Sandvik, way back in about November. I said, in order to watch the Cavs before the game, I have to take ibuprofen.
Yeah, you're not wrong in that regard. But with Isaac Okoro, dude, you were a lottery pick.
Not only that, top five. Not just the lottery, top five.
And, okay, for a while, for a few years, you were the starting small forward. If you are a lottery pick and you're the starting small forward, I expect you to get me at least 10 points. You're going against the likes of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and a number of other very good to great small forwards, not just in the Eastern Conference, but across the rest of the NBA. Dude can barely get 10 points a game.
Well, and as I mentioned, I completely lost my train of thought there.
You're welcome.
But as I mentioned, when it comes to this team, They have no dog in them. They have no fight in them. Donovan Mitchell to me has not played like the superstar he should in this series.
This, this series has been more of a pillow fight. It,
This is what I wanted to mention. Okay, here we go. People complaining about the officiating, that Orlando's getting all the calls and they're getting into the free throw line and the Roach are missing every
it's
call.
because they're being aggressive and
Thank
trying.
you. It's because they are driving their head down like football players with a helmet on and driving to the basket and being more physical. They are holding the Cavs. If you watch closely when the Cavs set their picks, Orlando does have them by the jersey about half the time. They are holding, they are scratching, they are grabbing. But you know what the Cavs are doing? They're not embracing the physicality. They are running away from it and playing finesse basketball. And there's times where Struz will just come down and he'll pull up from 35 feet. And the one he made, which was incredible. But there was a couple of them where I'm like, man, even if he makes it, that's a bad shot. What are you doing?
Right, you're not Steph Curry. You're not Clay Thompson. Um,
But my biggest takeaway from this series is whoever plays Boston is going to get murdered.
even without Kristaps
Even
Porzingis,
without, because Boston, whatever. If the Cavs were playing Boston right now, they would have been swept already.
which for me that's frustrating to hear. And you're in reality, you're right because based on what I've seen between the Cavs and the Celtics over the last 2 seasons, I'm like, I really want to see this in a playoff series. And then I watch how the two teams play. I'm like, oh my God,
Here's
Boston would murder us. And
the
I'm like,
the last stat for you that I'll give, and then we'll wrap up tonight's show. I heard this stat today, and I had to double check it, and I was taking it back because I couldn't believe it. So our coach, the worst head coach in the history of the NBA, JB Bickerstaff. We know he's had stints in Houston and Memphis as a head coach before. Do you know JB Bickerstaff has never in his head coaching career won a road playoff game?
really?
JB Bickerstaff has never, as a head coach, won a road playoff game.
Huh.